Welcome to the Ion Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, this morning we are up here in Glen Burnie. We're at Arundel Federal Savings Bank, which is one of the very few local banks that you're going to find, I would venture to say, pretty much anywhere. And it's a welcome respite in the world of the Chases, Wells, and Banks of America. And I will say there's no way in hell that I could walk into Jamie Dimon's office at Chase, but I am here today with Matt Mullen, who is the president and CEO of Arundel Federal Savings Bank. How are you?
I'm good.
And I'm so glad that you are not one of the Chases of the Banks of America or any of the other ones that are there, because there is something so special about a local community bank. And Arundel Federal, and I'll throw it out there that right now the website is arundelfederal.com. It's very simple. And you guys have been here for like more than 100 years?
Yeah, so we started in 1906. The original locations were in Brooklyn. We're still in Brooklyn today. We built our Brooklyn location in 1931. And then we moved here to Glen Burnie. I think it was like in the late 80s. And so we've been headquartered in Glen Burnie since the late 80s. And this is where our corporate center is. I appreciate the comparison to Jamie Dimon. I'm certainly not on that level. But, if I can be in the same sentence with Jamie, that's an interesting one.
And when you go home, you're probably very thankful that you're not on the same level
exactly.
At some point.
But I've been a community banker for my entire career, and I believe in community banking. We can make a real difference, especially, with people's first homes or with small businesses expanding. The ability for us to sit with a client and they get to know us, we get to know them. We're in the community. It's a big deal.
Well, that is a huge thing. And I'll throw out a personal story, and it's throw out another name of a bank that unfortunately doesn't exist anymore, but it was Harleysville, I think First National up in Harleysville, Pennsylvania. Had just been married, young, was looking at my first home. Of course, I had gone through college, and Sears, I think, had given me credit cards and said, here, you can buy like Montana on this for $25 a month. I had a credit score of probably 3. And, everybody that was traditional lenders were going like, okay, well, yeah, we'll certainly write this loan to you for 74% interest. But my bank, Harleysville National Bank, was a community bank up in Pennsylvania. He said, look, your credit's horrible. You know that. I know that. Typically, we will sell a loan. We'll agree to bring it in-house and hold it in-house at a very fair rate, provided that we get the rest of your business. And because of a community bank, just like Arundel Federal, I was able to buy my first house.
That's great.
Just because of it's the relationship. It's the community part of that, which is really, really pretty huge. But your core service, the low-hanging fruit are the checkings and the savings and the CDs and the things that every type of a bank offers. But you go beyond that too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So we can do pretty much anything. There's a few things that, some of maybe the really big banks might do, some more specialized types of things. But when it comes to, business lending, when it comes to consolidating personal credit card debts, anything along those lines, we can do anything. And we actually are rolling out some enhanced, what we call business solutions. So these would be additional products for the small business owner, which we think, we're a small business. We have 65 full-time employees, so we understand what it's like to be a small business. Just because we have a bank on the name doesn't make us big, so we get the struggles that a small business go through. And so we're rolling out some new solutions in terms of your ability to enhance your cash flow through an ACH type product where someone could pay vendors via ACH or collect via ACH through small business lines of credit to help you support your receivables and to just simple business expansion type loans.
We go out and do these podcasts all the time, and I have no business in my business dealing with any national brands, to be honest with you. I believe that any community starts on a main street. It may be Ritchie Highway up here, or Crane Highway, excuse me, up in Glen Burnie, maybe Main Street in Annapolis. But small businesses are really what make the economy drive, okay? Because if I'm doing business with Arundel Federal Savings, which I am, by the way, nice new app that you guys just released, but you're giving back to the community, okay? Yes, you're going to get a paycheck, and I know that you're going to go down the road and you're going to buy from the local sub shop. or the hoagie shop or the grinder shop, depending on where you are from
Sure.
the country. You're the one that's going to be supporting the local Little League team that's trying to get to the Little League World Series. And it all circulates back in town. And that's just so important. It's so critical for community because you're running into these people in the grocery stores, into the Home Depots and, wherever throughout the community. But interesting, I didn't realize that you did. Do you do a lot of commercial business? I mean, businesses?
Yeah, so the bank was originally, it goes way back. So this goes back to the original sort of foundation of the bank was what they call a savings loan or a thrift style lender, where we did, your savings accounts and your mortgages. Think of It's a Wonderful Life. If you go into our Brooklyn branch, it still looks that way. It's really kind of cool. But what we've done over the years was we've kind of transitioned to do some commercial real estate lending, and now we're transitioning to do more small business type lending. And small business, again, I call them solutions. So that's sort of the next pivot. We think as a community bank that we can actually have the biggest input into that part of the community, the small business community. Big banks are great. I don't want to talk bad about any bank, but what makes us different is that we can sit with a customer. They can come into my office. I've got, commercial lenders, business bankers that have been doing it for 20, 25 years that work for us. They live, they work, they play in these communities. So they know what it's like to what it's like to have a business in Glen Burnie or Annapolis or in Pasadena. And that really matters, and we're going to be there. We're buying products from them, so there is a real relationship. Like a lot of bankers like to talk about relationships, but it's a real relationship that we have.
Well, it sounds like it. Again, as you said, I mean, doing business in Pasadena is way different than doing business in Annapolis, is way different from doing business in Harwood and, West County or wherever it may be. And I would think that, certainly the big banks, they can certainly do that. Your numbers have to match.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to fit in their little algorithm or their little chart and check the boxes to be able to do that. So I with a community bank, I can come in and say, hey, here are I don't know, my struggles, but here's my situation. Is this going to work? And I mean, at that point, then you become a little bit more than a bank.
Exactly. What we want to make Arundel Federal is a transformative experience rather than a transactional experience. So when you come in, you sit with us, we're going to talk to you about what are your needs? How can we help you? What other things that, and you might not even be thinking about it. Like we have times where I've had a business customer sit down and I'm looking at their numbers and working with them. And I say, you really could use a line of credit. And they're, well, I've heard of it. My accountant said I should have, but, I don't think I need to borrow any money. Well, I said, well, I'll show them where, you can cut some days off of your receivables by using this product, or we might be able to help you get to your next project more quickly because you'll have more dry powder to work with. And they go, oh, this is great. I never thought about it. That's the kind of stuff that we can do. You may get that at a bigger bank, but you're not going to get it from the president or the chief lending officer or, the business development officers that I have that have been doing it for a long time. They've seen everything and it really makes a difference.
And they've seen it in the community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is,
I think it's important to note. So we are a mutual savings bank, which is really unusual. There's not many of us left. And what does that mean? So the mutual means basically we don't have shareholders. Think of sort of a credit union that still pays taxes, right? So my credit union friends are going to yell at me for that one too. But we are basically owned by the depositors. And so what does that mean for the community? Well, that means that we can put people first. So we can put our clients first, we can put our employees first, and we can put profits, second. I mean, profits matter, don't get me wrong,
sure.
But it's not the driver of what we do here. Where you go to a big bank or a stock holding bank where shareholders put pressure, they want to see dividends, they want to see earnings. We have the ability to say, okay, look, we don't need to make $1 gazillion this year. What we need to do is make sure that our clients are taken care of first, and then we'll worry about the $1 gazillion second.
Well, the gazillion will come. If the clients are taken care of and
right.
they're thriving and everything else there. Well, I mean, you've got 5 locations, right? You've got Brooklyn Park, which is the birthplace, the mothership. Glen Burnie right here on the Crane Highway, Annapolis on Reba Road, which is my branch actually, Severna Park, which I'm not sure exactly where that is, and out in Medina.
Yep.
So you pretty much cover all of Anne Arundel County.
We do. We do. I mean, we're always looking to continue to expand. As I said, we don't have any shareholder pressures to say that, we need to do this or that, or we can't expand. So we're always looking for new opportunities and to go into new neighborhoods. We love Anne Arundel County. We want to continue to be here and make this as our primary area, but we're always looking for new opportunities.
New opportunities. My father was in banking a long time ago, and he told me at one point, way back when he was younger, he said, before I die, we'll be a cashless society. We didn't get to that point yet, but we're getting close. I mean, with the whole electronic payments and everything else. But I mean, technology has just really changed and really transformed this industry, I've got to think, in ways that we have no idea. I know I had to go. My daughter had an account at Navy Federal Credit Union, and one time I went in there and I had to deposit a check or something or other. Then I went in and I looked at a TV screen and I talked to a person in a box and I'm like, oh, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And I mean I guess that's technology, that's progress. But I like when I go into my branch on Riva Road and they remember who I am, sometimes by name.
Sure.
Other times it's just, I recognize this guy. He's not going to rob us.
Right. Exactly.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's something to be said about that.
Oh, there's a lot to be said about it. When you make that phone call, it's usually when you have a problem, right? And you want to talk to somebody. That's really important. When you call us, you're going to talk to a person that's here, that's working inside the branch. They say, hey, hey, John, we know you. Hey, Jim, we know you. Hey, hey, Sally, we know who you are.
You're not option 4.
Yeah, you're not option 4. And you can get to someone that's going to help you with whatever you need. Hey, I've got a problem with my mortgage payment. Well, we're going to get you in touch with somebody that's going to be able to help you figure out where that check went. Oh, hey, I see my deposit didn't come through. Okay, well, we're going to talk to you about it. We're not going to refer you back to go, okay, log into your online banking. And if you can't find it, call us back. That's not our approach.
And again, it's so important. I'll throw it back, but checks were a thing. I don't know how much of a thing they are anymore at this point. I know I saw somebody at Growls one time whip out the checkbook, and I sort of smiled. I didn't, pitch a fit or anything like that. But again, going back to the community bank, at one point I had my bank call me up and say, "Hey, was your wife shopping in Skip Back this weekend?" And I'm like, maybe. I mean, I don't know about it, but I'm going to say maybe. And says, oh, well, we've got a couple checks that are coming through, and the account's like a little bit short. And they said, well, we can hold them until Friday until you get paid. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah. That's great. And we can work with our clients to help them. I tell you what comes up a lot now, though, is the fraud side, which is a really, those situations where oh my gosh, somebody's been writing checks on my account. You don't have to worry about dialing into all these different numbers and getting into a fraud department. You're going to talk to somebody here, and we're going to work on that case for you. We're going to help you. We're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to be able to, hot card your card quickly or close your account and open up another one. And so we have all the same technology that the big banks do in terms of like red flag systems or fraud monitoring systems. But then we have, that one-on-one personal touch. Because this happens. We still have a lot of checks that get written, and it's actually it's a bigger deal on the business side. And we're trying again, with different products and different solutions, we can get them into a product that you don't have to write as many checks, but business owners still write a decent amount of checks, and those checks are getting stolen and washed, and then somebody's writing that check to somebody else. Happens all the time, all over the country.
Well, I know Annapolis for a while had a period where I think it was a church, maybe it was during COVID, was getting checks sent to them because they couldn't congregate. And there was somebody right behind the mailman.
Yep.
Taking the envelopes out and, changing them up or depositing them. And I don't know that they ever caught them, but I know the fraud just in general is very, very prevalent anymore. And I know, unfortunately, seniors tend to be a little bit more vulnerable. I'm probably right on the cusp of that. So I don't know what happens to us that we, become less cynical or more believing. But certainly the technology that's out there between AI and everything else is really kind of frightening in terms of what you can do. What types of, fraud are you seeing? Obviously you said you're seeing checks slid out of the center of the stack from a business or something that they may not recognize for a couple months or whatever. What types of fraud is out there that people should be aware of?
Well, that's certainly, I think anytime that you're writing checks, I think you have to be very careful and sending them in the mail. That's probably one of the big ones where we're seeing that piece of mail getting taken, they get the check, they figure out a way to wash the check. So they take off who the person was it's being sent to and the amount, and then they increase those dollars and they send it to themselves or somebody else. And it's the same check. It's got the signatures on there, so it's really hard for us to identify whether it's right or wrong. We can tell from behavioral patterns that we have with our detection system. So we can say, hey, this check is for way more than they normally write, and it'll send red flags. But it's very difficult for any institution to determine whether something's fraud or not. You get the chip readers are still a big thing. So when you use your card at the gas station and there's a skimmer on there, that's still something that occurs today. So, using your iPhone or Android phone to do the tap is a much better way to go rather than inserting the card. There's a little bit less chance of the information being stolen by a third party, a malicious third party.
Now, if I can dumb down that electronic payment a little bit, as far as I understand that, like when I do the tap to pay, use the Apple or the Android thing, it creates a one-time use bogus kind of a number,
right? That
it shakes hands with the machine, and the machine is expecting that number, or maybe the machine is generating the number, whatever, but validates the number and sends it to the bank and says, okay, there's money there, and approve it, let's go. Is that pretty much?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. And so it eliminates some of the risk of, the other play of that is like when you insert your card and it reads the chip inside the card, those things. Well, now you don't have that skimmer. You're not putting your card into that where it's grabbing those numbers out, because some of these skimmers have become very sophisticated where you can't tell that there's something on top.
No.
So it's another way to go about it. But fraud is definitely something we're super aware of. The cybersecurity risks, the fraud risks that occur with our clients.
Well, you're sitting in a very powerful seat.
Yeah.
Because, you're holding my money. This is mine.
That's right.
And I trusted you. And I trust the FDIC to have, the insurance and stuff like that. But there is nothing worse than finding that your card has been compromised and knock on wood, I've never had my identity stolen, nor have I had lost any money. I found some compromises where the banks have flagged it and said, okay, we've declined this and going on. Usually that's like 4 days before Christmas as I'm doing my shopping, and then we'll send it.
Well, the real balance too is making sure that you remain convenient for your client. So your client wants to have it now and wants to use it how they want to see fit. Somebody wants to, they're like, hey, this looks like a cool widget on Temu. Let me use my card to buy something on Temu or whatever it is, And so they want to be able to do it. And then we're going, hey, if you do this, this could happen. So like it's a balance there where we can't make it so restrictive that you eliminate a lot of the fraud risk, because the consumer still wants to do whatever they want to do. But then they also don't want, we have to protect their money. So it's a tricky balance for sure.
Face ID is wonderful. The thumbprint is also very good to identify. I just learned with the Face ID that at least with the iPhones, they have motion and heat sensors in them. So if I kick it, it's probably not going to work.
Right.
Somebody gets the phone to do that. It's just going to look for movements and to get some heat.
We call it, it's the multi-factor authentication. So, it's more than the password. It's the next step, so that eliminates a lot of the opportunity for someone to kind of hack into your online banking, because most of the online banking today, including ours, you can do transactions within your online banking. You can send money out through your online banking electronically. So, you get a little worried about, the possibility of account takeover because somebody had the ability to log in. Well, we have multi-factor authentication where, if you were to be able to get a compromised password, let's just say somebody still did the password 1234 with maybe a hashtag after it, but, then there's a next phase where it's going to send you to an authenticator app, or it's going to send you a text message or whatever.
Put the
code in. So that really helps. If I had to tell everybody, because we have IT steering committees and we talk about and we have multi-factor for all of our core apps. So like our core providers that provide us with all the stuff that we do, in terms of handling the money and our GL, some of those things. I would definitely recommend everybody set up a multi-factor. I am not an IT guy, but I would tell you that that's a real strong way to safeguard your information.
Are there any services? I mean, we all use the Venmo, the Cash Apps, the PayPals, and stuff like that. Are they relatively secure? I mean, I know they're not banks.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to give you an opinion on that. I mean, we do see fraud that occurs within some of those apps. I mean, it's possible. There's going to be there is a new ability to kind of do the P2B and B2B payment processing through what they call FedNow, which is going to be coming out, which is, I guess, kind of a Zelle replacement that's blessed by the federal government through the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
So that's kind of becoming a thing, and it's going to be more and more that's out there. Zelle is something that all the banks, most of us have, and I will tell you that there is fraud that occurs in there. I mean, it's a lot of it comes down to the actual customer and protecting their own data
and their behavior.
We try to do, like you were talking about seniors. We do see that customers that are 65 and older tend to be the ones that see more fraud on their accounts. So what we try to do is we try to do a lot of outbound calling to our senior clients where we go to them. We go to senior centers. We try to train them on, hey, these are the things you need to be careful of. Some of them still put the check in the envelope and send it out. And, like you can, somebody can see the check through the envelope. We try to talk to them about like ways to protect their information. Like, if you get a text message and it says your password's been compromised and you see that it's a weird kind of link, don't click the link, call us. We'll help you. There are a lot of bad actors. So we try to do a lot of outbound training for our clients to say, hey, we know ways that we can help you. We see these things all the time. Let us work with you.
Be skeptical.
Yeah. Be skeptical. It's a good way to think about it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you see a text from me that says, hey, your password's been compromised, click this link to reset your password, don't click it.
But what really I think sets Arundel Federal apart, and you've mentioned the word several times so far that we've talked about, is about community. And the community support. I mean, there's very few organizations that are around that don't have your thumbprint on it. Some, might be a bigger, darker print than others. I mean, I know you big supporters of the Chesapeake Arts Center, Hope for All. I know every winter we hear about the food drives and we hear about the toy drives to give back to the community. And, let's not forget that we do have, you can read the Community Foundation's report, Poverty Among Plenty. We have people that are food insecure. We have people that can't afford, toys and gifts for their families for Christmas and the holidays. But you guys really are integrated into the community.
Yeah, we really try. I mean, this has been, it goes back to the mutual foundation as what I talked about, putting people first, putting our communities first. And our employees we really rally around these things. And we actually want to try to do more. We've been talking about having 100% participation in community events with all of our employees. We have a really high number, but we really want to come back to the community and say every single employee that works at Arundel has provided at least an hour of community service in whatever case that we can. We just did an event the other night that for the Well at a Top Golf event that raised a bunch of awareness for what they try to do. We support a nonprofit called The Complete Player, where we have people that go in and help provide leadership for.
We did a podcast with him.
Andy's a cool guy.
He's got a great story.
Yeah. Andy's a great guy, and so we donate a lot a lot of time. We have a couple of superstars that donate a ton of time to that organization in schools. And, you know, we've got other events coming up. So you talked about the Chesapeake Arts. We have that golf tournament that we raise a lot of money and awareness. We want to get more involved in the North Anne Arundel Chamber of Commerce. So we've got some events coming up with them. So, you know, one of the things that we've done, we've always have provided monetarily. What I wanted to do for us is continue to do that and try to even do more, but actually have people at the events, make sure that we're represented there. You know, when you talk to...
Get the T-shirts, get the hats.
You know, and you talk to the people, you talk to the nonprofits that we work with, they want people to attend. They want the party to be fun. So, you know, they of course, they need the money to help support their organization, but they want people to be there. So we want to make sure that we're well represented there, that they can see that there's support from us, from an organization and from an individual basis.
And that's so true. I mean, I've talked to a number of nonprofits. I mean, Hope for All was one that sort of ran under my radar forever. When I went in there and talked to, I saw the warehouse and everything else. I'm like, holy mackerel. And the amount of work that they do and the amount of the volunteers and stuff like that. So, and my whole thing with a lot of these podcasts is that if one more person knows about the organization, it's a win. And if the right person knows about the organization, it could be a huge win.
Yeah, for sure.
Depending on what buttons are pushed. And we all have our own little different buttons that we need to want to support. But it's so great when you get out into the community and you do see, your employees that are out there supporting, whether it be the food driver, the toy driver, or anything else like that. I know, we did it from the teller, like I said, from the teller walking into the branch down on Reba Road, all the way up to the top. I know Faye Curry is always out in the community. She's just absolutely
Faye does
wonderful.
A tremendous job for us.
We sit on the ICST board at Annapolis High together, and she's just absolutely amazing. We did a podcast with her and Teresa Millie.
Mealy, yeah.
Mealy.
Yeah, she runs our residential lending group. She was one of those superstars I talked about that donates a lot of time to TCP and Andy's group, amongst other things. But we've got some tremendous people that work for us.
You really do. And as I said, the Annapolis branch, I don't go into a branch anymore. And again, that's thanks to probably some of the technology that you have between the online banking. And I will say that as a customer, there's nothing that the big banks offer that you don't.
Yeah, for the most part, that's true. There's a couple things that, I'm not going to make a pitch for the larger banks. There are some things, maybe like some more advanced wealth management things that they can do in-house. And when it comes to your traditional banking needs, your lending, your borrowing, protecting your information, the digital types of or electronic types of banking, we have all those tools that you would need.
And they're secure. And you've got somebody here in the fraud department, someplace in here. I know there's behind some kind of a door.
Well, the other thing too is that, most clients are just like yourself, where they don't really need to go into a bank anymore. But if you do need to come in, you're welcome to come in. There was a push for some of the larger institutions that if you used a teller, they were going to charge you for that. That's not us. That's never going to be us. So you want to come in, you need to sit down with somebody. There's been a push from some banks to create, appointment type banking where you close the doors and then you can, you have to set the appointment to come into the branch. Like, that's not us. Like, you need something, you can walk in and and if you don't get that resolved with whoever's there, then they're going to call, somebody here, and, you might end up sitting with me and we can talk about it. My door is, people like to use a cliche, your door's always open. My door is almost always open, and for anybody, from all clients.
I've got on my notes here, it said the site, and again, arundelfederal.com says, and I'll quote, "There are no 800 numbers at Arundel Federal. You can call and speak to the president if necessary." I was going to say, is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. My personal cell phone's on every one of my cards. I actually don't even put my office number on there. I put my personal cell phone. So if you want to call me, you want to text me and say, hey, look, I have an account at Annapolis and I want to see this or want to see that, I'll answer. I'll talk to you.
Fantastic. And very easy to do business. I know that I open up my accounts online. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to necessarily go into the branch.
That's correct.
I do recommend that you do and get to know the people, because they're going to know you and they're going to be looking out for you.
Absolutely. No, I think it's nice. Again, we talk about, it's nice when you have that problem. And we don't, even myself, I've had a time where, my debit card was compromised. It's nice to be able to call somebody that and say, hey, this is what happened. And they say, oh, we saw it. We know, we're on it for you, Matt. We'll take care of it for you. And that's the kind of stuff, it's nice to be able to develop that rapport. You can be as convenient as you want. You want to use drive-through, you want to use electronic banking, online banking. That's great. We encourage it. But when you need to come in and sit with somebody, we also encourage that too. Come on in.
And I can't emphasize enough the importance and the peace of mind of having somebody watching out after your money, when they spot a fraud and do it. I never get mad at it.
Yeah. Take it a step further past the fraud point, for small business owners, or even, let's call it mid-sized business owners. When you come in and you sit with us and you say, hey, look, this is, I want to buy this business, or I want to expand. And we sit with that client. We look at financials. We talk to them about their plans. We look at their business plans. We may refer them to maybe a small business development resource, or we might say, hey, do you have an accountant? No, I've always been doing it. Maybe it's time, that you talk to an accountant. And, so it's another step past just the fraud point where, we help you build your business. When you come in and say, hey, I've been in business for 20 years, but I think I want to take the next step. Okay, let's talk about what next steps look like. What do you think you're going to need? Are you ready? All right. Okay. I want to buy my building. I've been renting it for years. I have the first right of refusal. Okay. Well, this is what you're going to need to do it. Are you ready for that? And they say, yes, no, it might take me another year. Okay. Well, then when you're ready, we're ready, and we can work through situations like
and
that.
setting out the game plan, setting out the map on how to do it.
Yeah. And we've got people, my director of commercial lending is somebody that I've worked with. It's funny. So he was a mentor of mine. I worked for him for a number of years. We've kind of flip-flopped a little bit where he works for me. But I mean, he's been doing it for 30 years. I mean, he's seen every business, every type of loan, the structures of deals, how we can help people. We've heard good stories. We've heard bad stories. We've seen it all. We can really help the small business owner and figure out their path. So, I tell everybody, like, I encourage them, come, if you've got questions or you're thinking about doing, come sit with us, come talk to us. We'll help you.
It's an hour well spent.
And and we're not like an attorney. We don't charge you for the hour. It's free. There's no application charge for our commercial small business loans. You want to come in and sit with us? Sit with us. We'll talk to you.
How big of a business could you handle?
So there are regulatory limits on terms of how much we can lend to a single entity. So that depends on, we call that a legal lending limit, or loans to one borrower provision. But we can handle, some pretty good sized businesses. I would tell you, the business for us would probably be that the one that we would like to handle the most would be the small business customer, that have maybe less than 100 employees, somewhere less than maybe $10 million in revenue. But, don't think of that as just,
a hard fast.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody came in and had $200,000 in annual revenue, we'll help them, like that's, you got 2 employees, or it's just you and your wife. We have solutions for everybody. We've handled clients as big as $20 million a year in gross revenues and, have, 300 employees. We can handle those for you. We have all as you talk about, the tools to help them. We have those tools in place. So
that's one of the things on your website too. You've got a tools section. I think it's resources, maybe it's called, and a bunch of calculators, like how much can I borrow, which is invaluable.
Yeah.
And I do recommend everyone go check out arundelfederal.com and just explore, what they have. But I'm totally impressed with the business aspect of this, because, I mean, as we look at small businesses that are throughout Anne Arundel County, many of them do have the opportunity to maybe start up. I mean, I know County Executive Pittman started during COVID the Inclusive Ventures program, which is for minorities, where they went through business mentoring, and then at the end they got a $5,000 grant to do whatever with what they want. It's been wildly successful, and they've had several different cohorts go through. But I mean, I find an awful lot of times that businesses are content with where they are, and that may be fine, but the ability and the potential to grow is there, and it may not be realized because you may be fire hosing yourself.
Yeah.
Saying, there's no way I can invest in, $100,000 in a new online e-commerce something or other.
Yeah.
But if I come in here and talk to Matt and your team, you can say, well, maybe you can.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can't.
Yeah. Sometimes we might say no, and that might be the best thing that for you. And it happens a lot of times where, we have to give that honest assessment and say, you're just not ready, or this is not the right time.
That's what they say. No just means not right now.
Yeah. A lot of times it is not right now. I heard this saying, and I've used it a couple of times, that, you can't read the ingredients when you're standing inside the bottle, right? So, a lot of times small business, you're just so busy keeping your business open, you don't really see what's happening. You don't really know all the things that, what's happening within your business or the trajectory of your business. We actually figure out a way that we take your numbers and we sort of break them down to a place where we can see them. We understand what's happening. We have software that helps us do that. And then we sit with you and try to go, okay, well, tell us your story. And we have these numbers, and we piece them together and say, okay, what you're telling me and what your numbers say are completely different things. Or sometimes they say the absolute same thing. And, those are the times I would tell you from my past experience being sort of a business banker, commercial lender, a lot of times the client doesn't usually call me about a loan or a need right there. They're calling to talk to me about hey, what are you seeing? Like what's happening within my company? We can provide some real good feedback. I'm saying, okay, well, this is your numbers. You're telling me that this is what you want to do, but your expenses, your gross profit margin is shrunk. Your expenses are up. Your income, your gross numbers look great, but your net is down. Have you really looked at what's happening here? Your compression, your margin compression, and they'd be like, oh, I knew this, but I don't know why. And then all of a sudden they go back and they start to look,
dig in.
all of a sudden, oh, hey, we did have these things. Why are that? And then they go back and they dissect that and they come back and say, hey, thanks for looking. Thanks for helping.
It's funny. I mean, it sounds like you didn't make the list of the top 10 biggest banks in the country, and I'm sure you're not too upset about that, but you certainly did make the list for Anne Arundel County, and I'm very happy about that we do have local businesses here. What would surprise most people that we haven't talked about Arundel Federal Savings Bank?
I think one of the things that surprised people is that they think of a bank being around since 1906 and a small community bank that, that we don't have the sophisticated tools for them. We talk about this a little bit. When you start talking about like, here's a like kind of it's a product that's been around for a little while, but it's become a bigger issue. And I talked about it's like ACH origination from a small business standpoint, right? So this is the ability to pay your vendors and manage your cash flow by sending electronic payments rather than sending checks. Well, you manage your cash flow better. You cut down on fraud. We have that tool available to you. So they might go, oh, that's a tool only the big banks would have, or they've got a better process because I'm a whoever. I'm a nationwide bank. But what we have the ability to do is that we actually can go out and we're not beholden to a certain core vendor. We can actually go out and find the best of breed. We can go out there and find the best product that fits for our client. And so, we don't have a lot of legacy sort of, systems in place. We can create like cutting edge systems and try to find the best resources and tools for our clients. It's really kind of interesting. Again, you think of us sort of this, some people may think of us sort of being this kind of sleepy old savings and loan, but that's not really what we are. We are we still have savings and loan roots, so we don't forget about our consumer and what we've been good at for 119 years, but we have sophisticated products. And so I encourage people to come talk to us and check us out.
You're nimble.
We're very nimble. So that's one of the things we encourage here is being nimble and pivoting. You hear this from a lot of banks, the local decisioning. It doesn't get any more local to Anne Arundel County. We are all here, right? So we can make a decision very quickly. If we see that something's not working for us, we can change it. Our entire board is local. They're all from Maryland. We only lend in Maryland. So we can, on the business side, actually on business and residential side, we can lend anywhere in the state of Maryland, but this is what we do. This is what we know we're good at. And we just focus on those things.
Well, I know in the last podcast we did with Faye and Teresa, she had said that she was explaining I'll say the underwriting process. I may be using the wrong term, but it's a group of local people.
Yeah.
That are sitting here looking at it may not be maybe not be paper at this point, but, just looking at the request and making a decision and, sort of like, I guess, America's Got Talent type of a thing, but saying, hey, this is why this person needs this. This is this. And it's something you just don't get when you just throw it out there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of institutions where like that underwriting group is not, let's say you look like a Maryland-based bank, but the underwriting or servicing teams could be located who knows where. That's not the case for us. So, all of our people are housed here. All the underwriting's happening here. Like on the business side, it's all happening. I mean, they are desks away from each other, from the lender you're talking to the credit analyst, to the people that are going to be doing the loan documentation side of things. It's all happening right here in our buildings. And there's a real value to that for the customer. You're never sort of lost in this mix. I mean, that's really the worst part for a customer is, let's say I apply for a home loan and you get the application in, like, well, after I turn the application in, I've sent all my laundry list of on it. Where are we? Well, you don't have to worry about getting lost in transmission. It's all here, so everybody knows where everything is.
It means you would call the non-800 number and
Right.
say, what the hell's going on with my loan? And
Right.
you'd find out.
Well, we hope that we're the ones calling you and giving you the update. But if you did feel like you got to the point where you're like, because that's a big deal for some people. This might be the biggest purchase they'll ever make.
It probably is.
On the business side, sometimes it's some of those, if you're a small business owner and let's just say you want to buy the building, office and warehouse component of your business. I mean, that could be a couple $1 million. That's going to be the biggest transaction of your lifetime. And those numbers can get scary and you can get nervous in a hurry. And I wouldn't blame anybody. It's nice to know that lender you're working with, the underwriter that's working on that deal, the board is right here who could be approving it. The way we document it, it's all housed here. It's never going to get lost. So I think it's important.
I would say with 119 years under your belt, I'll say corporately, you're not 119. You look pretty damn good, but you haven't built that reputation, haven't built that legacy by screwing up too much.
Yeah. But I mean, hey, listen, the truth is that there are times where, we don't get it right, but what can we learn from not getting it right? And we're constantly talking about how do we make the process better for our people, whether it's internal or external? How do we make that experience from you borrowing money, which it can be very nerve-wracking. Let's say you're building a house, building a house. I mean, we've seen couples get divorced in the building house process.
Oh gosh.
Because it is really, really tough. We try to really help you through that process. We try to sit down, we talk to you about, your builder selection and your draw process. And we help them keep builders honest. I mean, there's a lot of great builders out there, but there are times where we have to step in and say, hey, we're out of compliance on the draw schedule. You all need to work this out and point out sort of areas where we can help bring people together and have them have a conversation to get back onto schedule and really kind of get you through a process. It can be very nerve-wracking. So, there are times where things have not gone the way that we want them to go. And we always do a debrief and we come back and say, okay, how could we have done this better? And, we're constantly learning. Even though we're 119 years old, we know that there's a lot to learn and a lot to get better.
And there's a lot more coming down the pike that we don't know.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would recommend anybody that has a small business, maybe looking to go into a small business, looking to buy a business, looking to buy a home, or any really banking needs, check out arundelfederal.com. It is one of the very few remaining local community banks here. And also take note when you're out in the community, you're going to see their fingerprints on it. Whether it be the Chesapeake Arts Center golf outing or whether it be the Hope for All fundraiser or whatever it is, they are part of the community. They're helping our neighbors, maybe not without the banking, but with food and with toys and everything else. But I want to thank you for being the community partner that you are. And Arundel Federal Savings Bank and Matt Mullen, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been great.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.